The wind howled across the broken skies of Vardic Prime, a dying planet scorched by centuries of war. Smoke rose from the shattered remains of once great cities, and the ground was littered with twisted metal and bones. The great alien empire of Threxen had finally won. Their final battle ended 3 months ago. The enemy was crushed, the last human base vaporized, or so they believed. Inside the cold stone walls of the war chamber, the Threxen leaders gathered to celebrate. Warriors, in black armor, their skin a shining blue like storm clouds, stood silently as a massive door opened. 2 guards entered, dragging a strange, frozen object between them. It was a cryopod, old and scarred from battle, humming faintly with life. The room fell silent. The female war chief, tall and fierce, stood from her throne. Her name was Ajari. Her armor shimmered with gold lines, each marking a war she had won. Her sharp eyes narrowed as she stepped closer to the pod. She had seen many prisoners, many broken bodies, many fakes. But this was different. The guards bowed and spoke in a deep voice. "My chief, this was found buried under the ruins of Sector 9, hidden deep, protected by ancient codes. It is a human." Ajari stared at the frozen face inside, a man with scars on his cheek, his body still intact, his eyes closed as if sleeping. A strange warmth crawled up her spine. Not fear, not anger, but something deeper. She had killed the last human herself. She remembered the scream, the fire, the silence that followed. She had watched his body burn. Her voice broke through the silence. "That is impossible. I destroyed the last human 200 years ago." The elder beside her leaned in, whispering. Perhaps this one was hidden. A survivor or a weapon? She stepped closer and touched the glass. It was cold. Too cold. But the hum of life beneath the ice was real. Machines still kept his heart beating. Why would he be preserved? Why would someone hide him for so long? And why now, when peace was declared? The guards looked confused. "Should we terminate him?" "No," Ajari said sharply. "Take him to the deep chamber. I want him studied." Later, in the darkness of the sealed room, scientists worked quietly, scanning the pod. The technology was old, human-made, but brilliant. It had kept him alive for 2 centuries without failure. The pod showed battle logs, encrypted messages, memories locked in light. Ajari watched from behind the glass. The human was still asleep, but her hands trembled slightly. She had not trembled in 100 years. Memories flooded her mind. The last battle, the fire, the one human who had almost defeated her. He was clever, brave. His final stand had shaken the skies. He had looked her in the eyes as his base fell. He was supposed to be dead. But the man in this pod looked just like him. She whispered to herself, "Is it truly him? Or just another ghost?" Across the hall, a young alien soldier passed the cryo chamber and stopped. He stared at the figure inside, uneasy. "Why are we keeping him alive?" he asked another. "Because the war chief gave the order," the other replied, "and she never explains her orders." Ajari turned away from the glass, but her reflection stared back at her. She didn't know what frightened her more, the idea that a human had returned, or the strange pull in her heart when she looked at his face. Something in her soul whispered that the war was not truly over. Not yet. The human woke slowly. The cryopod hissed and released cold mist as the seal broke. Lights flickered above, casting shadows across the stone ceiling. He blinked, confused, his vision blurry. His body felt heavy, like chains were wrapped around every muscle. But he was alive. That was the first surprise. He sat up with effort, groaning, his breath fogging in the cold air. Strange walls surrounded him, alien walls made of black stone and glowing patterns. Nothing looked familiar. No screens, no flags, no sound of Earth tech. Just silence and the distant thrum of power. He reached out only to find a glowing cuff locked on his wrist. A soft metallic click echoed as the chamber door opened. The guard stepped in, tall and silent. And then she appeared. She walked like thunder. The alien woman in gold armor. Her skin shimmered like sapphire flame, her hair braided with iron rings. She didn't speak at first. She simply stared at him. He narrowed his eyes. "Where am I?" Ajari answered calmly, but her voice held weight. "You are on Vardak Prime. You were found under the ruins." He tried to stand, pain shot through his legs. His body wasn't ready yet. Still, he looked her straight in the eye. "You're not human." "No," she said. "I am War Chief Ajari of the Threxan Empire." He froze. The name echoed in his memory. Ajari, the commander who ended the war. The woman who killed Earth's last army. The alien he swore to stop. The one he saw before the fire took everything. "I thought you were dead," she said quietly. "You should be dead." "I could say the same about you," he muttered. Ajari's eyes flickered with something. She had seen humans beg, lie, scream. But this man, he didn't fear her. Not yet. She stepped closer, her voice low. "What is your name?" He hesitated, then answered, "Captain Darren Holt, Earth Defense Corps." The name meant nothing to the guards, but Ajari recognized it instantly. Her eyes widened just slightly. That name had vanished from history, burned with the last transmission. Holt was a commander of the outer colonies, lost in battle, sacrificed. She had fought him once. His tactics had shaken her empire. He had nearly destroyed her flagship. She had watched him vanish in the flames. She had told herself he was gone forever. Now he was sitting in front of her, cold and angry, but alive. "You were given to me as a gift," she said. "But I don't believe in gifts." He smirked. "Then send me back to the freezer." She didn't smile. "No, I want answers. Why were you hidden for 200 years? Who sealed you in that pod?" "I don't know," he said. "Last I remember, my base was falling. Everything was on fire. Then nothing. Just darkness. Then this." She studied him. No lie in his tone. Just confusion, pain, and pride. Ajari turned to the guards. "Chain him, but do not harm him," he shouted after her as she walked away. "You ended my people. You burned Earth to ash. Why keep me alive now?" She stopped but didn't turn. "Because I killed you once already. And something tells me that wasn't enough." Outside the chamber, the palace buzzed with whispers. Some said the human was a sign. Others feared he was a weapon left behind by the ancients, a ghost of vengeance. But Ajari remained silent. She walked into her private hall and closed the door. She stared at a wall carved with names. Names of warriors she had slain. Holt's name was already there, chiseled with pride. She touched it. Then slowly she crossed it out. Captain Darren Holt sat on the cold metal bench, his arms chained to the wall. The cell was quiet. Too quiet. No guard spoke. No sounds of machinery. Only the faint humming of the lights above. He had counted the seconds. The rhythm calmed his mind. It reminded him he was still alive, even if surrounded by enemies. He wasn't sure how much time had passed since the alien war chief visited him. Days, maybe. His body was healing. Slowly. Whatever tech had kept him alive had drained him. But he could feel strength returning. Still, his thoughts remained heavy. Earth was gone, his mission was lost. Everyone he knew, dead. 200 years had passed. That fact crushed him more than the chains ever could. Outside his cell, whispers carried through the stone corridors. Alien voices spoke of him like a shadow, a ghost. Some feared him, some wanted him destroyed. But no one dared enter, except one. She came again. The door opened with a low hiss. Ajari stepped inside, her armor removed this time. She wore a dark robe, simple but royal. Her face held no emotion, but her eyes, they studied him differently now. "You're healing," she said. He didn't answer at first. Then he looked up and said, You keep visiting. Why? She stepped closer. Because something about you unsettles me. He raised an eyebrow. Is that a compliment or a warning? Ajari didn't smile. A memory. She paused beside him and looked at the chains. Do you know why I became war chief? No, he said. My mother led the armies before me, she said. She believed humans were a disease, loud, emotional, reckless, but powerful. She said if we did not erase you completely, your kind would rise again. She was right. Holt replied quietly. I hated her, Ajari said. But I followed her orders. I destroyed Earth's last beacon. I watched your people burn. I remember your name because you were the only one who almost stopped me. He turned his head, his voice cold. Almost. Yes, she said. Almost. A long silence filled the room. Then suddenly, Ajari pulled out a small device. She pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the air between them. It was old. Static flickered through it, but it was clearly a recording. An old Earth soldier, screaming through gunfire. Darren's eyes widened. He knew that voice. It was Lieutenant Rami, his second in command. Sector 9 compromised, the voice shouted. We're sealing him in. We'll send the beacon. If anyone finds this, save him. Please. The message cut off. Ajari's voice was calm. They buried you under a command center, sealed you with old tech. They believed someone would find you, but no one did. Not until now. He leaned back, breath caught in his chest. They saved me. They thought someone would come. No one came, she said. The war ended, the Threxan Empire expanded, and your people became myth. He clenched his fists. Then why am I still here? Ajari lowered the device and said, Because I want to understand why I still remember you after 200 years. Why your name stayed carved in my mind, and why when I saw your face again, I didn't order your death. He looked at her, unsure if it was a trick or truth. Her voice had no weakness, but it had something else, curiosity. Are you planning to use me? He asked. Maybe, she replied. Or maybe I'm afraid that the last human is more dangerous asleep than 1,000 warriors awake. She turned and walked away again, but just before the door closed, she stopped and said, Tomorrow I'm taking you out of this cell. To where? She didn't answer. She simply said, To see what your kind left behind. Then the door shut, and the silence returned. The sky above Vardic Prime was dark red, as the transport ship flew low across the broken lands. Wind tore across ruined metal towers and twisted statues of long-forgotten battles. Below, wild beasts ran through cracked roads, once cities, now dust. Darren stood inside the ship, wrists still locked in light cuffs, but his eyes wide as he looked out. This was Earth's last outpost? He asked. Ajari stood beside him, arms crossed. Her face was calm, but her voice sharp. It was called Sector 9. You fought here, didn't you? He nodded. It wasn't just a base, it was a shelter. For families. For children. She didn't speak. She already knew that. The ruins spoke louder than words. The ship landed near the remains of a human memorial. Half a wall still stood covered in names. Darren stepped forward, his boots crunching over broken glass. He reached out and touched a name. Carmen Holt, he whispered. My sister. Ajari glanced at him. You had family here? She was a doctor, he said. She stayed behind to help evacuate when we pulled back. I begged her to leave. She didn't listen. There was a pause. Then he turned to her. Why bring me here? To see what I've lost? No, Ajari said. To see what you meant to them. She gestured to a broken building ahead. Inside, old Earth banners still hung on the wall, faded by time. But one caught his eye. A huge cloth painted by children's hands. A human soldier drawn in dark colors with a glowing shield and kind eyes. Beneath it, the words, He will return. He always does. Darren stared. That's me. They remembered you, Ajari said, even after we won. even after we erased you." Darren turned away, his throat tight. The past felt heavier than his chains. He knelt beside a rusted piece of metal brushing away dust, a broken dog tag, and a child's bracelet beside it. "Why are you showing me this?" he asked again, voice low. "Because something inside me needs to understand why one man haunts the mind of an empire," Ajari said. "You were a soldier, but you became more. You became a symbol. Even we feared that." Suddenly the wind shifted. The guards moved quickly, weapons raised. A figure was approaching from the hills, fast on a creature like a shadow panther. It wore dark robes, a rogue scout, not Threxen. Ajari's hand went to her blade. The scout stopped 20 feet away and dropped to one knee. "My chief," he said, "I bring urgent news." She walked toward him, annoyed. "You interrupt me. For scraps?" "No," he said. "The Emperor's eye has learned of the human's return." Her face darkened. "That was not possible. He has ordered your return at once, and he wants the human alive." Darren stepped back, instincts rising. "Who is the Emperor's eye?" Ajari turned to him slowly. "A spy lord and assassin, loyal only to the throne." Darren narrowed his eyes. "You didn't tell them you found me." "I didn't want to," she said. "I didn't trust them." He looked at her. "But they know now." Ajari nodded. "And they will come. Not to speak, not to question, but to take." For the first time, Darren saw something behind her armor that wasn't coldness, it was worry. "Then what happens now?" he asked. She walked back toward the ship and ordered the guards to prepare for flight. "We go back to the capital," she said. "But this time you're not going as a prisoner." He tilted his head. "Then what am I?" She met his eyes. "You're a threat. And now, also my responsibility." The capital city of the Threxen Empire stood like a crown carved into the bones of a mountain. Spires made of obsidian and crystal pierced the sky. Glowing rivers of molten light ran between the buildings. Alien banners fluttered in the wind, and guards in black armor lined every street. It was a city built to intimidate. A city of warriors and judgment. Darren had never seen anything like it. He stood on the platform of Ajari's ship as it docked at the central tower. The cuffs had been removed, but he wasn't free. Not truly. Still, he walked beside the war chief without fear, even as hundreds of eyes followed him. Aliens whispered from balconies. Some pointed, others turned away. "They've never seen a human before," he said quietly. "They've seen drawings," Ajari replied, "but none thought one would return." Guards opened massive doors ahead of them, and they entered the Grand Council hall. The room was vast, shaped like a circle with 10 high seats carved from ancient stone. One seat sat higher than the rest, empty. The Emperor was absent, but others were waiting. The council lords. A tall alien stepped forward. His armor was silver, his eyes cold and sharp. He bowed slightly to Ajari, but his voice was hard. "So it is true. You bring a human to our heart?" Ajari nodded. "Yes, I found him. He is alive. He remembers nothing of these last centuries." The Lord looked at Darren. "And yet you protect him." "I do," she said firmly. "You defy protocol." "I follow instinct," Ajari answered. "This man carries no weapon, no army, but his presence shakes us. We must understand why." Another counselor spoke, an older female with thin golden rings across her forehead. "What if this is a trap? What if the humans have returned and he is only the first?" Darren stepped forward. "I woke up in a cage. I had no idea the war even ended. If my people are out there, they've left me behind." There was silence. Then a new voice echoed from the side of the chamber. Smooth, cold, dangerous. "The Emperor does not require understanding. He requires obedience." Everyone turned. A cloaked figure stepped from the shadows. The air grew colder. His armor was black and polished like a mirror, and his mask was shaped like a sharp skull. His voice had no warmth. Ajari stiffened. "Emperor's eye." The assassin bowed mockingly. "War chief, you've returned With your ghost. Darren's jaw tightened. Who are you? I am the blade that moves without shadow, he said. I see what the throne cannot. He circled slowly around Darren like a predator. You are not supposed to exist, he said. You were burned, erased, your kind, wiped clean from the stars. And yet here I am, Darren said. The Emperor's eye tilted his head. You are a danger, not because of what you carry, but because of what you awaken. He turned to the council. I request immediate transfer of this human to the throne's control. No, Ajari said at once. He remains under my guard. You do not own him. I do not need to, she said. I only need to remember. And I remember what he did, what he was, and what he might be again. The room grew tense. Then one of the council lords spoke quietly. Let the Emperor decide. Darren looked between them all. He felt like a piece on a game board he couldn't see. But he knew one thing, they were afraid of him, even after 200 years. As they led him away, guarded but unchained, he whispered to Ajari, You still believe I'm the same man from before? She didn't look at him, but her answer was calm and certain. No. I believe you're something worse, something forgotten, and now remembered. Darren stood inside the Emperor's inner chamber. It was quiet. No guards, no chains, just silence. The walls were lined with glowing texts, ancient weapons, and frozen trophies from past wars. At the center of the room stood a single chair, empty. The Emperor was not present, but someone else waited. A small alien girl no older than 10 by human guess sat cross-legged on a floating platform. Her skin was silver blue, and her eyes glowed softly. She looked up as Darren entered, then smiled. You're the last human, she said. Darren blinked. Who are you? I am the Emperor's child, she said. But I'm not supposed to speak to you. Then why are you here? He asked. She leaned closer. Because I dreamed of you. He frowned. You what? I saw you in my dreams, she said. You walked through fire and saved someone, a woman. She was blue like me. Darren's voice was quiet. That was long ago. Dreams don't care about time, she said, then giggled. They remember everything. Before Darren could ask more, the door opened. The child vanished through a side passage, and in her place came the figure everyone feared, the Emperor. He was not loud. He was not armored. He wore simple robes, but his presence filled the room with pressure like gravity. His eyes were old and unreadable. He looked at Darren without speaking. Then finally, he said, You should not be alive. I get that a lot, Darren replied. You are a symbol, the Emperor continued, and symbols are dangerous. They rise when people feel weak. They grow when people doubt. I didn't ask to be a symbol, Darren said. But you became one, the Emperor said. Even our own children dream of you. Darren stepped forward. Then why keep me alive? The Emperor studied him. Because the war chief has made a claim. She believes there is more to learn from you. I have chosen to give her that time. But know this. You are watched. If your presence brings unrest, your story ends again. Darren didn't flinch. Fair enough. The meeting ended without ceremony. No guards followed him this time. Instead, he was returned to Ajari's private tower under limited watch. It was a strange change, from prisoner to something else. Inside her tower, Ajari stood at the window, looking out across the glowing city. He entered quietly. I met the Emperor. I know, she said. He allowed you to live. For now. Your people fear me, he said, but not because of who I am. Because of what I was. She turned to him. And what were you? He took a deep breath. A soldier. A brother. A man who tried to stop a war. And failed. She stepped closer. What if you were never meant to win? What if your survival wasn't the end, but the beginning? He didn't understand. Then she handed him something. A metal disc. Small. Rusted. But as soon as it touched his hand, it blinked to life. A hologram appeared above it. His sister's face. "Carmen," he whispered. The recording played. Her voice, tired but steady. "If you're hearing this, Darren, it means you survived. We hid you for a reason, not just to live, but to come back. One day the galaxy will forget who we were, and you will remind them." The recording ended. Darren stood frozen. His hands trembled. Ajari spoke softly. "They didn't just hide you. They believed in you, even after everything was lost." Darren looked at her. "Why are you helping me?" She met his eyes. "Because I remember what fear felt like, the day I fought you." There was no threat in her voice, no command, just memory and something new. Trust. The nights on Vardic Prime were colder than Darren remembered Earth's winters. From the balcony of Ajari's tower, he could see the stars, sharp, endless, and silent. Somewhere out there, Earth had burned. Somewhere, his people had vanished. But somehow he was still standing. Behind him, Ajari stood in silence. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. They had spent hours without saying a word, both staring into the same sky. It was strange. Peaceful. But peace never lasted long. A sharp knock echoed through the tower. The guards opened the door. A council messenger entered, face tense. "War Chief, the Emperor's eye has moved without order. He's taken control of the vaults." Ajari stepped forward. "Why?" "He claims the vaults contain relics connected to the human. Forbidden tech. Evidence of a hidden war." Darren frowned. "What are the vaults?" she answered. "Old storage beneath the capital. Weapons, data, and sealed things from before the Empire rose. Even things we feared to understand." "Then why would he go there now?" Ajari's eyes narrowed. "Because he's afraid of what we'll find." Moments later, she summoned her personal guard. Darren moved beside her as she fastened her armor. "You're taking me with you?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "You're the reason he's moving now. If the vaults hold truth, you should see it with your own eyes." They moved through hidden corridors beneath the city, far from the glowing towers above. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. Lights flickered, walls cracked from age. The vaults had not been touched in years. 2 guards were dead. At the entrance. "Too late," one of Ajari's captains said. "He's already inside." They stepped over the bodies. The chamber inside was massive, filled with crates, locked doors, and sealed capsules. Some glowed faintly. Others leaked strange blue gas. But at the center was what caught Darren's breath. A human ship. Small. Damaged. But real. "That's Earth tech," he said. Ajari nodded. "How did it survive?" Suddenly, a blade hissed through the air. A guard fell. The Emperor's eye stepped out of the shadows, moving like smoke. His black mask reflected the lights, and his voice cut through the silence. "You were not meant to come here." Ajari drew her blade. "You moved without the Emperor's voice." "I moved to protect the truth," he said. Darren stepped beside her. "You're hiding something." The Emperor's eye tilted his head. "Not hiding, containing. Your kind had allies, dangerous ones. The truth of your survival threatens the throne. The people do not need heroes from the past. They need order." He struck fast. Ajari blocked him, their blades clashing in sparks. Darren ducked as a second strike missed his head. He grabbed a metal rod from the ground and swung it with all his strength, hitting the masked assassin in the side. The Emperor's eye stumbled, but didn't fall. Guards rushed in, weapons drawn. A short fight followed. Blades flashed. Crates broke open. Glowing machines sparked wildly. In the chaos, Ajari slashed across the assassin's mask. It cracked. He vanished into smoke, escaping through a side corridor, but the damage was done. Darren knelt beside the broken crate. Inside it was a sealed file, old, Earth language. He wiped dust from the front. It read, Operation Dawnstar, Human Survival. Plan, Phase 3. Ajari knelt beside him. What is it? He looked at her slowly. We weren't the last. She froze. The vault wasn't just a place of fear. It was a door, and someone had just opened it. Darren sat in the center of Ajari's war room, the broken file from the vault in his hands. Around him, screens flickered with ancient human code, slowly translated by alien systems. The words were shaky, some lines corrupted by age, but one thing was clear. Earth had not gone quietly into the fire. Operation Dawnstar, a final plan. A hope hidden in the dark. Ajari watched him closely. What does it say? He looked up. My people knew we were losing, so they created hidden outposts, not on Earth, but beyond. Remote colonies, deep space, places where humans could sleep in silence, waiting for a time to rise again. Ajari's voice was low. You weren't the only one frozen? No, Darren said. Just the one closest to Threx in space. One of her commanders stepped forward. The file mentions coordinates, deep sector, far outside the Empire's border. Another added, if it's true and more humans are waking, then war may come again. Darren stood slowly. Or peace. The room went quiet. Suddenly, a warning alarm echoed through the tower. One of Ajari's guards rushed in. We have incoming ships, unauthorized, they're not ours. Ajari moved fast. Who are they? Unknown, the guard said. But they're scanning the capital, looking for something or someone. Darren's heart sank. They're looking for me. She looked at him. You're sure? He nodded. If this file was real, others might have gotten the same signal. Not just allies, enemies too. The Emperor's eye. Ajari didn't wait. She activated the emergency defense shield over her tower. Prepare my command ship. We're leaving. Where? Darren asked. To the coordinates in the file, she said. If humans still live, we need to find them before someone else does. He followed her, moving with the guards as the tower shook under distant pressure blasts. Outside, the sky was glowing with energy. Ships hovered in the atmosphere, strange, dark, shaped like thorns. Not Threxan, not human. Something else. A third force. They've been watching, Darren said, waiting for the right moment. As they boarded the ship, Ajari turned to him. If you had the chance to save your people, would you fight again? He looked at her. Only if I must. I'm tired of war, but I won't let my people die. In the dark, the ship lifted off. Flames filled the sky behind them. From above, Darren could see the capital burning. The vault had awakened more than memories. It had called out. And something had answered. Inside the command deck, Ajari stood beside him. We were enemies once, she said. Now we chase the same answer. He nodded. Maybe peace comes when both sides finally want it. She glanced at him, not cold this time. Or maybe it comes when the last truth is revealed. The ship entered warp. The stars bent around them, and far ahead, in the unknown, a signal waited. Old human, alive. The ship traveled through deep space, faster than light, but the journey still felt long. Darren stood at the observation deck, watching the stars blur into streaks. His heart raced with questions. Were there really others like him out there? Had any of them survived? And if they had, what kind of humans would they be now? Behind him, Ajari entered quietly. She wasn't wearing armor. Just a simple cloak, dark and elegant. Her voice was calm. We're close. Darren turned. Do you trust what we're going to find? No, she said, but I believe it's real. The ship dropped out of warp, near the edge of a shattered star system. Planets were torn apart. A red sun burned low in the distance. But among the ruins, one signal shined like a whisper. Ajari pointed to the hologram. There. An old human satellite hovered in place, blinking faintly. It sent out a pulse. Slow, repeating. Ancient Earth Code. Darren read it aloud. Survivors found. Base secure. Awaiting rescue. Ajari gave the order. Send landing pods. As they descended, the view opened. Hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid was a small human colony. Dome-shaped shelters, wind turbines, solar panels, all built to last. When the pods landed, figures stepped out of the shadows. Humans. Dozens of them. Some were older, some children. A new generation born. In hiding. Darren stepped forward, heart pounding. An old man pushed through the crowd, eyes wide. It can't be. Captain Holt? Darren froze. You know me? I was on the last transmission ship, the man said. I saw your face. You were a symbol, even before the cryo. A child stepped forward. Is it true? Earth is gone? Darren knelt to the boy's level. Yes, but you're still here. That means we're not finished. Ajari watched from a distance, silent. For a moment she didn't see soldiers or enemies. Just survivors. Humans clinging to life with nothing but memory and hope. They reminded her of her own people during the early wars. Scared, stubborn, unbroken. Later, inside the colony's main chamber, the survivors shared their story. They had been asleep for decades, waiting for Earth to return. They had woken only a few years ago when a backup system activated. But food was low, power failing. They had no contact beyond this system. Darren looked at Ajari. They can't stay here, they'll die. She nodded. Then we take them. Her words shocked even her own soldiers. We'll bring them back to Vardak Prime. They'll be hunted, one officer warned. Then we protect them, Ajari replied. But before they could leave, the sky outside darkened. An enemy ship appeared. Black, massive, the same kind seen above the capital. A third force, not Threxan, not human. A warning blast shook the colony walls. Darren ran to the command screen. They tracked us, the old man said. Who are they? Ajari answered, her voice grim. They call themselves the Bloodless. They feed on extinction. And now they've come for what's left of you. Darren looked around at the survivors, at the children, then back at Ajari. This time, he said, we fight together. She drew her blade. Then we make sure they remember why humans were feared. Outside, the battle had begun. Inside, the past and future stood side by side, ready. The sky above the asteroid burned as fire streaked across the stars. The Bloodless had arrived in full force, sleek black ships cutting through space like knives. No sound echoed in the void, but inside the colony the ground trembled. Darren moved quickly, helping families toward Ajari's transport ship. His voice was firm, calm, but inside he was shaking. He had seen battles. He had lost everything once. He wouldn't lose again. They're targeting the hangar, a guard shouted. Get the civilians inside, Ajari ordered. Hold the line. Her soldiers, loyal and fearless, formed ranks outside the colony, but they were outnumbered. The Bloodless dropped from the sky in silver suits, faceless and silent. They didn't speak. They didn't scream. They only moved with cold purpose to erase what remained of humanity. Darren grabbed a fallen weapon, alien-made but deadly. He aimed and fired, dropping one of the attackers. Behind him, a child cried. A woman stumbled. He turned and shielded them both. Ajari fought near him, her blade moving like lightning. For every enemy that fell, two more followed. Still, she didn't stop. Darren shouted over the chaos. If we don't get the civilians out, this colony dies. She nodded once. Then we fight to buy them time. Suddenly, a bloodless warrior leapt at her blind side. Darren didn't think. He moved. His shoulder slammed the enemy aside. The blade meant for Ajari dug into his back. He gasped, fell to one knee, but stayed up. Ajari spun and finished the enemy in one strike. Then she turned to him. Blood ran down his side. You shouldn't have done that, she said. I owed you, he whispered, for remembering me. She pressed a device to his wound. Pain flared, then numbness. You don't get to die, she said. In the sky above, a new light broke through the clouds. Ships, dozens, not bloodless, not Threxan, human, real human warships. The survivors had sent a signal when the vault was opened, and someone had answered. From the largest ship, a voice came through all channels. This is Commander Era of the Resistance Fleet. We received your call. Reinforcements are here. Ajari looked at Darren, eyes wide. Your people, he smiled weakly. They remember. The new ships opened fire, pushing back the bloodless. The colony was saved. For now. Hours later, after the sky calmed, Darren sat with Ajari on the edge of the landing platform. His wound was wrapped. Her armor was dented. But they were alive. Around them, humans and Threxans worked together, building, healing, guarding. Darren looked at her. I was offered as a gift, he said. You should have killed me. She shook her head. No. You were never a gift. You were a warning, a story I didn't want to believe. But now, maybe you're something else. What? A beginning, he laughed softly. You really think humans and Threxans can live together? I didn't, she said. But now I've seen it. Darren looked at the sky. What now? Ajari stood slowly. Now we prepare. The bloodless will come again, but this time, they'll face two enemies. He stood beside her. Then, let's make them fear us both. Together they walked toward the survivors, no longer enemies, no longer lost in the past, but standing in the first chapter of something new. The last human had returned, but he wasn't the last anymore.